Hey everybody, Scott Detweiler here, and today we're going to talk about the differences between a Capture One catalog and a Capture One session. Now, a lot of people who come from Lightroom automatically feel that the catalog is the only way to fly because that's the only way that Lightroom flies. And I came from Lightroom to Capture One, although Capture One has been around a lot longer than Lightroom, so keep that in mind because it is pertinent to the discussion. And Capture One has always used sessions, and because I came from Lightroom, I automatically assumed that I needed a catalog because catalogs are what I understand. And I'm going to show you that why I ended up deciding that sessions was actually smarter for the way that I work. And I want to discuss the differences between the two so that you can understand which one might work best for you. So first of all, understand that the major differences between the catalog and the session are basically how things are stored on the hard drive. The functionality between the two systems is very similar, although there are some advantages to both, and I'll talk about each of those. Don't worry about the pictures you're seeing in the screen as part of this, but it's a fairly large catalog or session, and I wanted to kind of create one so that I can compare and contrast the two. So let's talk about, first of all, the most important part of that, and that's how these things live on the hard drive. So here I have on one side the session and on this side the catalog, and it's going to be that way throughout the entire video. So you'll know the catalog will always be on your left and the session will always be on your right. The thing to keep in mind with a catalog is that it is very portable. So all you need is this entire directory, this demo catalog here, and you could put this on a portable hard drive and hit the road. Now, you don't even need the catalog file. You can just take your originals and hit the road, or put them on another drive, for example. And then if you're in Capture One on this machine and your portable drive isn't attached, you can still edit images using the editing tools in Capture One. And when the drive is reattached, all those objects will be updated. Lightroom is very similar in that way for portability. Now, a session object doesn't really vary that much because this is the entire session as well. So just like a catalog built for portability, I can put this thing on a portable hard drive and hit the road with it. And the same kind of thing happens if I edit an image that isn't present, then it updates later. So really there's no benefit to the portability of either one. They act the same, although their structure is considerably different. Now, over time, you're going to notice the magic behind why the session is better, for me anyway, than the catalog. And it mostly has to deal with scalability. And I'm not talking about that if you have 280,000 items in your library and your catalog is just chugging along as slow as it can, why the session object is going to be superior there. I'm not talking about that, which is big, but just overall hard drive space. The catalog lives in one location. Sessions can live literally anywhere. You can have sessions scattered all around as long as they're all in the same directory like this, and that's not even true. But from an organizational standpoint, if they're all kind of like this, they're all bite-sized pieces that can be spread around. The catalog, everything is stored under originals, and this is what's called a self-managed catalog. It will manage itself. You don't have to do anything. So I imported these today, and it created this kind of goofy structure that contains all the originals are down in here. So these are my TIFFs, for example, and it manages how things are organized by date and whatever other magical numbering system comes up with. You never have to look at this. It is a hands-off, don't worry about it type of attitude. Now, sessions are quite different. Sessions, everything you import, like from Capture One, it's going to be in your Capture folder, obviously. If you're in Lightroom, it's in the date folder or the default import folder. So in Lightroom, the root folder, and in Capture One, the Capture folder are exact same thing. It's just where all your files are dumped initially. The differences now come into how things are organized, in that your Capture folder contains, as I say, everything. Then your Selects folder contains the items that you've picked, that you've said, these are the best images of my day. So I haven't really culled much of this session yet, but these are the ones that I really liked. Now, Output contains all of the TIFF files or PSD files if I'm working that way. Typically, JPEGs don't live in here. I don't know why this one's in here. It really doesn't belong there. I'll delete it. I don't like my JPEGs in my output folder. I'll get into that in another video or maybe later in this one. But this is where all of my prized possessions live. Basically, I've spent hours editing any of these images, and these are the finals that were given to the client. These are the most important things that I have. So at the end of the day, as your hard drive starts to swell and you've got 5, 6, 10 years of photos, think down the road, which one of these is going to be a better system for you backing things up? And that's really what made me think Sessions is just smarter. If you're backing up this library, you have to back up probably by date, by year, and then whatever goofy thing this is. I think this is a month. So obviously I'm not as familiar with the catalog part of this because I fired it early on when I discovered that I couldn't scale it. So when you're backing things up, what is the most important files in here for you? And it's kind of a big gray area. Is it because they're all smashed together in the same location? You don't have any way to say, I just want certain files out of this to be backed up more than others. And I'll give you an example. In this system, as I said, everything in the output folder is gold. I've spent hours retouching it. It's backed up. It's backed up in multiple locations. It's also pushed up to the cloud. Now, the selects are also backed up in multiple locations, and they are sometimes pushed up to the cloud. I used to do that a lot more often. I don't as much anymore because pretty much every select will end up as a TIFF file because I edit everything. I don't ever just edit it in Capture One and output it for the client. It always goes through another process, usually for skin retouching, just because that's my style and it's what I like. So really, at the end of the day, there will be a version of every select in the output folder. So there's that. So let's fast forward 5 years and my hard drive is almost full. I've got a 16 terabyte RAID array and it fills all the time. So what do you delete? Well, obviously trash gets thrown away, but really everything in the selects folder was what I showed to the client. It's what I sold. The client is unaware of anything else. And really anything else I have was just there in case I need to borrow an eyeball or a head or something to kind of help complete an image that wasn't quite perfect. So at the end of the day, this capture folder that contained everything originally, I can throw this all away. All these raws can be thrown away because if they aren't good enough to be selects, why am I backing them up? And that's really the kind of the epiphany I had. I'm like, I'm spending so much money and time trying to back up a capture folder when this is really the only folder I care about. Now, I don't want to delete this right away because I said I might need it. I might change my mind in some images. So I'm a little liberal with what I pick. Like I will go through and pick, maybe I kind of like this one. I'll go ahead and move it to selects anyway. But I say at the end of the day, probably 70% of the shoot is really just filler for the 30% that are the best shots. I say I shot 10 shots that were very similar. 1 is amazing and 2 are pretty good. That's 3. The other 7, they're not useful. So as I scale this thing, I can start to go through and delete these capture folders out of my archive. In the catalog universe, you can't do that. You're kind of stuck. It's all piled on one original. This is also the problem in Lightroom. You have no way to differentiate what is the most important thing. So you end up backing up everything. And that takes a lot of space and a lot of time. And it just makes life hard. So if we go back to our catalogs, let's talk about the differences between them physically. Or not physically, but as the application works. So in Capture One catalog, you'll notice that there's an in catalog. And this basically shows that all the items are in catalogs. And you can add other folders to this physical hard drive folders. But I'm talking about someone's a purist, and that'd be your Lightroom user, would keep everything in the catalog. Let the system manage and organize it. You would then create user collections, and you create groups, projects, and albums. And the way that Capture One organizes this is pretty freeform because these are logical, not physical. You can arrange things however you would want depending on how you work. So you can group things, you can put projects in groups, and you can put albums in projects. And it allows you to just kind of keep yourself sane. And the same image can be in multiple albums and multiple groups and multiple projects. And that does not increase the size of it on the hard drive. So if you have for instance, I want this model here is going to have her own folder for her stuff. She'll have a folder for ballet and she'll have a folder for lingerie, but she might have lingerie while doing ballet. And I want that image in both of those albums. This allows me to do that without increasing hard drive size because it's using tokens to organize my library. So if I'm being anal that way and taking all the time to organize it into those types of folders, then a catalog is really kind of ideal for you. But do you need that? I think you have to ask yourself the question, is it really that important that you stay that organized, or can you just open the browser and look and see what you have and then find the picture you'd like? I used to organize it by dress. Then I started realizing that, why am I doing that? I'm just kind of asking for trouble because I'm spending a lot of time organizing it It's kind of like keywording for everything. Do I keyword her for redhead and black dress and seated and standing? Or is she facing the camera or facing away? Is it full body? Is it headshot? Is it an upper body? You could keyword these things all day long and really never use any of that information. So keep in mind, don't just do it because you can. Have a reason at the end of the day as to why you really need to break it down like that. Now, in here, so you would create these user collections, and everything is put in these import here. These go away eventually as time passes. These recent imports go away. And you basically just have a big catalog, and you'll create your collections and organize things the way you would like. If you have a fairly complex hierarchy that you like and you want to maintain it from catalog to catalog, you can actually create a template so that when you create a new catalog, it has the same user collections, and then you can just import things into albums directly. But remember, it's not really putting it in the physical album. It's putting it in the catalog's file folder, reorganizing it for you, and then adding all those tokens to those albums as you would like. Now let's say converse. Let's look at this. So here's the session. The session has these folders: the capture, selects, output, and trash, just as we saw. And we can actually click on anything we have. So if we're looking at this on my hard drive, because this is just my hard drive, and I say, well, I want to go and look at say I think there was a shot of Grant. I want to make sure that I had that one. Oh yeah, it's right there. I did not ruin or upset the apple cart in any way by going and using this kind of like a big version of Bridge. I can peruse my hard drive all I would like and look at these different things. And if I say, oh, I want to reference that one with this current one, I can actually save that as a favorite, and it will allow it to be linked right under session favorites here. So it's a quick way to browse things on your hard drive. This is a physical hard drive browsing thing, but right here, here's Jennifer's thing, and here's her capture. Now I can get back to this anytime by using these 4 links. There's always a capture folder one. There's always a selects folder one. There's always an output location, and there's always a trash. So from those, I can quickly get to and from what I want to, even if I'm buried down here. And I can always say to it, where is it in the library? I don't know where this is. Can you show me where it is? I'll say, well, yeah, it's right here. And anytime you're in Capture One, or not even in Capture One, if you were in Capture One and you wanted to say, well, I want everything I'm about to move into a different folder, you can go through and make this as your selects folder. And then as you start to select items, it will move them to that folder. So you have a way of physically organizing things on your hard drive. This is for people who want to deal with the hard drive file management. This is for people who don't want to deal with it, but want to deal with it logically. This is the side where people are able to handle how the hard drive is going to scale and maybe work on a lot of individual projects. And a catalog, I guess, would be for people who work on the same thing constantly for 1 or 2 clients, and they want to keep it very organized. And I really can't think of a lot of ways in which the catalog is useful. The session to me makes more sense. If you're a wedding photographer, each wedding is its own session because you have your captures, and you're going to keep, again, 30% of those. Your selects, which is the things you give to the bride and the groom to look at, to buy, the output, or what contain everything that goes in their wedding album. And 5 years from now, when your hard drive is full, or 2 years from now when your hard drive is full, you can ditch that whole capture folder, because really you didn't give them any of them, so they don't know that they're there. And if they came back and said, hey, do you have a picture of Bobby who, his one eye isn't, his wonky eye is looking better that day, you could go back in your capture file and find one. But after 2 or 3 years, they're not going to come back, and you know that. But you still have the selects, you have the raws from those selects, and you have the outputs. Now, eventually you're able even to get rid of the selects, because every select is probably also represented in the output folder if you delivered it. Now, I look at selects as things that the clients might purchase, and the output folders what the clients did purchase. So if they come back later and say, hey, you showed us a picture of Jimmy, and we didn't buy that one, we want to buy that one now, that's why you would have your selects around. And again, because selects are only 20 to 30% of your total that you shot, then I don't mind keeping that around. In a catalog, it's all one big pile, and you can organize it into logical tokens and try and manage it that way, but you have to do it physically. You're going to have to create those albums and manage them. But because they're not physical albums on a hard drive, you can't say to your computer, I want this one to be backed up in 3 locations and this one to be backed up in 5 locations. Now, I'm going to make a separate video on how I back things up. I made one a couple of years ago, and it's a bit dated, although still somewhat correct in how I manage a lot of my objects for backing things up. But at the end of the day, this folder here is worth gold to me. This output folder, it's the biggest folder, because those files are usually about 2 gig or larger. but they're the ones that mean the most to me. Now, I told you I didn't put JPEGs in there, and the reason I don't do that is because for me, JPEGs are usually they're printed, or the client gets an 8x10 JPEG or 8x12, or their social media versions. All that stuff gets pushed into a Dropbox folder, and that's where I organize it by client. And the client gets, some of those folders are shared to the client and others are not shared to the client. And if that Dropbox were to be destroyed, then I can come right back in here and re-output all those files right from scratch. I didn't lose anything. So I call them discard eligible. If my Dropbox were to blow up tomorrow, I don't care. It's fine. I can reproduce all those. But if I'm looking for printed images of Jimmy, I don't have to come back to my computer to get it. If I have access to the Dropbox, I can get to printable size images of Jimmy no matter where I am and send them to my lab or print them on site or wherever I happen to be. That's why I like Dropbox for that, because I don't require to have Capture One plugged in to do that kind of thing. So I just kind of wanted to mention the differences between the two. And I'm not naysaying the people who really enjoy a catalog, but don't think you need a catalog just because Capture One says they have a catalog and Lightroom has a catalog. And you can import your Lightroom catalog into Capture One and start as you were, because it's going to manage it. But at the end of the day, I have a problem with the scalability of the catalog, my ability to choose what gets backed up additionally, because I don't push everything to the cloud. It's expensive to push it to the cloud. It takes time to push it to the cloud, and you're charged more for that. Also, physical hard drive space at home. I have multiple cassette hard drives that, and I don't mean cassette like cassette. They kind of look like glorified 8-track players, and you just push a hard drive into the top. I'll put a link to one in the description below so you know what I'm talking about. And they're like 30 or 40 bucks. They're not very expensive. And I use that until that drive is full. And then that drive gets pushed into a static envelope and stored in a fireproof safe, so that if I ever need those selects or those outputs, I can go get them. There are no capture files on that drive because those are 3 and 4 terabyte drives. They're smallish. They come out of my RAID because the RAID is getting full, and I can upgrade that to like an 8 or 10 terabyte drive now. So now I have a 3 terabyte drive that's just sitting around. It's like, well, I'll use this that way. Put my selects, put my output folders in it, and then that's synced every night about 2:05 a.m. or some goofy time. And then once it fills, I shove it in the fireproof vault, grab another one, write on it with a marker as to what number or letter it is, put it on the drive or in the cassette, and leave it there. So this way I have multiple hard drives of everything except for Capture. Capture is only stored in 2 locations: my working drive and my Drobo, or that's my RAID array. So I don't want to get overly complicated there, and I probably just put half of you to sleep. But I wanted to discuss that. It's difficult for me to logistically deal with how to make certain things more important here and be automated, because I'm so lazy. I want everything to be backed up without me having to deal with it. So I find that this works so well, and I fought this for this longest time. I was like, I want my PSD or my TIFF to be in the same file folder as my RAW. I really wanted it that way. And now the way that I do it is anything that has something in the output folder, like an example over here, is blue. I know blue ones are ones that have a one that is living in the output folder. Red ones are ones that I have yet to do. And these are ones that I want to develop, but I haven't gotten to them yet. So if I go into the output folder, everything here is purple. Purple ones mean that there's a blue counterpart to it somewhere back in the other folder. So that's how I organize myself to know what's in output, what's in selects at any one given time, whether I've gotten to something or not gotten into it yet. So anyway, I just want to kind of discuss the differences between these. Everything else is pretty much the same. All the filters work the same, all the finding, all the searching, everything works. It's just you have to have one giant, huge hard drive. So a catalog is good for people that have like a network attached storage, and that is where everything is going to live, and you don't back it up outside of that, or you back up all or nothing. A session is for smaller bite-sized pieces. Again, I used a network attached storage for mine as well, but my network attached storage is a mirror of what I'm working on my local hard drive. I want speed. So everything is on very speedy local hard drive until the project is done. And then it's removed from my local hard drive. So it lives in the RAID array, it lives in the portable storage, and then it lives in the cloud. So at any time, there's 3 backups of everything. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. I know this was like probably one of the most boring things you've ever sat through, but if you're trying to decide which one of these you would rather look at, really the catalog is not superior to the session, but because a lot of us come from the Lightroom universe, the word catalog is in our mind, and the word session is, I don't even know what that is, kind of thing. The session is just superior in about every way. I mean, each one of these is individually packed. This one only has about 500 or so 100 images in it. It loads fast, it works fast. I don't have to worry about it having 120,000 pictures in it by the end of the year, in which I'm probably going to make another catalog anyway. So then I've got 2 catalogs to manage, one for every year that I've been keeping catalogs. For Session, they're all bite-sized, they're all individual. We shot a dog, an agility trial for dogs, and there must have been 12,000 pictures in that for a couple different photographers who all combined our images. And I could not wait for that thing to get off of my hard drives and be gone. So because it was taking up so much space, and it's one of those things when they bought their pictures and they were done, they aren't going to come back for more. It's not that type of clientele. So no, those are completely gone. Like they only exist now. The purchased items exist in the cloud and on that portable archive drive. Everything else is it's off the machine, and it couldn't do that if you were shooting a catalog. You'd have to dump the whole thing and make sure those individual files were all backed up, and there's a lot more work involved, and I'm very lazy about it. Anyway, leave some comments below. If I need to clarify this with another video to kind of talk more about it, let me know. But I wanted to talk about the physical difference and the logical difference, but right now, I cannot be sold that a catalog is superior to Session in any way. I think everything I can do with a catalog, I can do with a Session, unless you have situations where you really need to organize yourself and have an image be in multiple albums at the same time, which just doesn't happen on this side for me. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. If you like the video, please take the time to give it a thumbs up. I say about 1 out of every 100 viewers bothers to click that like button. It means a lot to me. And let me know if there's other videos in Capture One you would like to see, and I'll get them done. Talk to you soon.